Oh, we're missing Sophie. All right, just a minute for Sophie, and then we'll start.
Spicy. Oh, grandmother.
No. Good evening. It is Monday, October 7th at 6:34. This is budget hearing number 4 for the Binghamton City Council to consider the proposed 2025 City of Binghamton budget. City Council is convened as a committee of the whole, chaired by myself, Robert Kavanaugh, as finance chair. Tonight we'll be reviewing the pages for the planning department, the economic development department, purchasing, and the personnel and civil service lines. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Porter,
Present.
Councilmember Middleton. Present. Council President Matavetsky. Present. Councilmember Dundon.
Present.
Councilmember Costi.
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Present.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Present.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite down Juliet Burling, the planning director, to present her pages of the budget. And with that, open pages 85, 100, 101, 106, 107, 108, and might as well open the fee pages on 230 and 231. Welcome, Dr. Burling. Would you like to go over your?
Yep. Hello, good evening, everyone. Where would you like to start?
Well, let's just get 85 out of the way, since that's
Okay, so
pretty simple.
sure.
It's
Let me get there.
Stipend for COD members is all, I think. Yes.
Okay. Okay, sorry. So this is the board member fees for our Committee on Architecture and Urban Design. And they are paid once at the end of the year, so it shows nothing is encumbered, but we get all of their timesheets or not timesheets, so with their
Meeting attendance?
yes, meeting attendance submitted at the end of the year and we submit for payment.
And it's a sliding scale like the other ones? Like if you if you've missed so many number of meetings, you get less money or something? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions on page 85? All right, we can go to page 100 then.
I was gonna just motion and get it out of the way.
Oh, we'll do them all at once.
So this is the zoning board of appeals supporting budget. It includes board member services and general operating supplies, legal ads and advertising. And the operating supplies and advertising is for public noticing. Published in the paper, mailed to residents within 200 feet. And then all the stuff that goes with it, paper, printing, ink. And we also have to post it in the newspaper.
Any questions?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, how are you?
I just had a quick question. So it's just at a set rate always for the $750. What if you have more things to post, or that's just the limit of things you'll post or put out ads for?
Well, if it does go over that, we typically don't have as many cases with ZBAs we do for planning commission. But if it does go over, we have funds in the planning commission budget line as well. So we will pay for it out of that if necessary. We've never asked for an increase in either line. And during the year, we've never, I don't believe we have. No. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So all the board members get paid at the end of the year?
Yeah.
So make, okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
We used to do it quarterly, but it's just much easier. And if they would prefer it quarterly, we do it that as well. But
Any other questions on 100? All right, let's go to 101. Similar situation, I think.
Yep, this is the planning commission, board member fees and then the supporting general operating supplies and the legal ads and advertising again for those. And it's the same thing with public noticing, published in the paper, then posted signs on the property and mailing.
Has
they-
there been any thought to also post that type of information to the city's social media, like free advertising?
Oh, I'd love to.
Has there been any conversations or anything to try and, I know constituents kind of reach out asking like, how do we know
can
this
do
stuff?
that.
We're on social. Why isn't this stuff on social?
We can have it posted on the City of Binghamton's Facebook page. I could also send it to council if you
Yeah.
guys want to post it. I don't know, do you have individual Facebook pages or just per district?
I think most of us have our own, some are kind of election oriented, so they wouldn't be appropriate. Like, I know for myself, I have two separate, I have one that's purely not political, just
Okay,
council. like,
I'll have it posted at the city's web,
Yeah.
Facebook page.
Great. And yeah, we can reshare it from there.
Okay.
And you can send it to our emails too. I like it. Send it
Okay.
to my email. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Since we're going down this rabbit hole a little bit, is there any discussion in the, it's a very general question, in the planning and zoning communities about what happens with notice going forward? This is a good legal question. I mean, not for right now, but as newspapers are dwindling and dying and what is effective public notice anymore? I mean, there's what's on the books and what is actually effective. Is there a,
Yeah. Well, we are legally required to post it in the newspaper, but we do, nearby resident mailings as well. I'm just blanking if it's within 200 or 500 feet, so don't hold me on that, but that's where a lot of our expense goes, is mailing to every single property, as well as if the property owner doesn't live on that site, we send it to their address, but we also send it to the property site for tenants. And then we post signs. Again, I believe it's like every, I want to say 30 feet, that we have to post a public notice sign, and it has to be visible. That's just a way, and we'll start putting it up on Facebook. I think that'd be great.
Any other questions on 101? All right, let's move to the kind of meat of your budget, 106 to 108. And you want
Okay.
to, then I think your summation's coming into play now.
Okay, you want me
Yeah.
to just
Yeah,
walk
go.
through
Want
it?
to walk through it? Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Hold on one second.
Yep.
My nails are a big thing.
My long nails.
Annoying. I got it.
All right, so this is the budget for planning and zoning, which also includes the historic preservation. Let's see, the first line we have, first change of note really was our housing safety specialist position. It was unfunded in 2024, but it was replaced with our housing case aid position that we're jointly funding with the county. They, however, haven't had success filling the position, so it's kind of on hold with them. So
Is that something they're going to try and continue to do into next year? Is it something that,
we've been trying to do it.
no, but are they going to continue or because we're,
I don't know, but we are continuing to work with them on it because we want the
Okay.
position to be filled. It was supposed to be a joint position between city and county, and it's a needed position, so. They had low rates of applications for existing positions, including that one. So they're trying hard to fill their vacancies now, so. All right,
Do you know how they're advertising positions, or is it something that we're
Probably.
jointly advertising, or?
I believe they just post on the Broome County webpage for employment. I don't know if they put it in the newspaper, classifieds, employment section. Indeed, they might be posting on Indeed, I'm not sure. So,
You mentioned it was necessary. I was curious if there was more details to the necessary, like beyond, obviously, housing is a kind of a crisis issue and we
Mhm.
care
I-
about that issue. When you say necessary, is it necessary for
no,
state mandated
no,
or something like that?
not
No.
at all. No, it's just an important position that would really help the community. So,
I was just gonna add, we had asked them to share with us. DSS is handling the hiring, but we have been asking them to share with us the link so that we could post it on the city website too. We're still waiting for that, but once we get it, we're hoping to post it on the city website and social media to help with the hiring.
we good? Okay.
Mhm.
So the next two lines then, I had no change in the request. Temp services, the overtime. The equipment line is what we use now to buy identifiable clothing for my staff. They're out in the field a lot posting signs, taking pictures for staff reports, and occasionally they get questioned if their their tag isn't visible. So they have just City of Binghamton shirts pretty much, and then protective footwear for nails walking through properties. Let's see. Okay, and the contractual line is where we had the funding to support the social services case aid. Moving on, let's see, office supplies, toner, paper. We do use this line to buy signs for posting public notice with. So the uniform line is zeroed out as we moved into equipment, because I don't buy them uniforms. We just get, shirts. Okay. And then moving along for professional services, we use that to support grants for special studies or assessments or surveys of property, to apply for grants usually.
So there's significant changes in this over the last couple of years, from
Yeah,
43,000 expended in 2023 to a budget of 12,000 this year to only asking for 2,500. Is there a change in how the department's doing things, or what you're pursuing, or what's the rationale?
yeah, okay.
In the 43,000, that was a drainage study that was out of this line for Maravitos Stadium. And then there was also a climate action plan, I believe.
Yeah, that 9,500 was the last payment for them.
Was the
Yeah.
all right, climate
For the
action.
climate action plan.
Right.
Mhm.
But normally we just have 2,500, but as, years and work changes, sometimes that figure changes as well. So. Okay.
So the next couple lines, legal ads, advertising, and postage, so you kind of have that broken out into each of
Yeah.
the commissions.
Yeah.
So
That moved over into the commissions exactly, so it's, I don't know if you want to take those lines out, these last two. Yeah, okay. Okay. Let's see. So that brings us to travel and training. There's, let's see, 10 people in my office, 7 are with planning and zoning, and 4 are with, sorry, I can't do math, 4 are with the housing, and 6 are with us with the planning and zoning, for a total of 10. So this training covers mostly my office, the planning and zoning. We do have a separate budget for the HUD travel and training as well. But it's not a lot for 10 people, considering traveling, paying for conference fees, all of that. We haven't expended a lot right now, but the conference schedules are really starting September, October, November. So, but we'll be spending it. So, and a lot of training is online now, which is great. It goes farther, reduces travel costs. That
So all the board members for the zoning and planning, do they all get training as well?
we pay for the membership with New York State Planning Federation. That includes a lot of really nice, affordable training that way. But no, not through that line.
Okay. So
Okay. Subscription dues and membership, that's the American Planning Association membership is a scale, and the more experience you have, the higher it gets. So the price of that changes all the time. So right now we have 2 at 366, 1 at 304. The Planning Federation membership covers the commissioners in full for zoning and for planning commissions, as well as my whole staff, with just supportive resources and training material. Let's see. We did drop the historic preservation from planner from the APA membership and added the National Alliance for Preservation and Commissioners, which was just much more targeted towards historic preservation. Newspapers.com is an online kind of a newspaper database resource that we use for researching history of properties. It goes way back, 1800s. So, and then the Press and Sun Bulletin, we have the subscription for that to verify legal ad public noticing. Oh,
Dylan has, I think it's mostly Dylan has pulled up some amazing what you can pull
Yeah.
up on that archive. And
yeah,
how it becomes useful and during COD meetings and things and looking at properties. So
yeah, I think he's
think
doing a
it's-
good job. Yeah. So it's definitely worth it. Okay. Any questions, or do you want to discuss the HUD admin and housing?
are we ready to move on to 108? All right, let's move on to HUD.
Okay. So this is also part of my office.
So maybe you're gonna, maybe not. how much of this part of the office's budget is actually paid for by federal funds?
The, all the employees on this list are paid through CDBG. The, program assistant is 0.34 is paid by CDBG and the rest is paid by the city for, it's a joint position that supports planning, zoning, historic preservation, housing and HUD. So we split it up that way just based on, volume of work. So, but it's all, that's all paid by CDBG and a percentage of, planning staff. We track it on our timesheets. Unfortunately, implementing plans is not considered eligible for CDBG. Writing of the plans is, and most of my staff implements them. So whenever I'm involved in writing plans or doing research for plans, I can, I put hours down to go to CDBG for that purpose. Okay. All right.
So, and then how good are we at maximizing the allotment of CDBG money for administration
We're good.
versus what your
My office is really good. So yeah. Everybody that is eligible, we are reimbursed by CDBG for that. And tracking hours where if it's not a position that's 100% eligible, it's kind of, we do that as, it just adds extra time having to write down, okay, today I was doing this and tracking hours for it, but we definitely make sure that at least employment hours are covered that can be. And also, Steve does that for the rest of the city hall as well, tracks their hours and then submits a reimbursement for CDBG.
If I understand correctly, the CDBG money, it's like separate amounts. So like when you're looking at the admin money, it's not taking away from the project's money, like
Oh, no, it's
Just wanna-
separate. That's correct. It's
that's how
totally
I
separate.
understood it. Yeah.
There's
So that-
and there's a cap. You can't go beyond a certain amount, but we do our best to hit as close to the cap as we can. We do try and keep, we need to keep a little room in case there's like a fluctuation. Because if you go over caps, they don't like that at all. So we'd rather be a little under cap. So HUD is very particular, so. Okay, so moving on, let's see. I think we had a slight increase in office supplies. Our new housing coordinator, I have to buy him some boots this year. Sorry, protective outerwear, and footwear. Let's see, professional services, legal ads and advertising, that's fairly prescriptive. We have to advertise and have public hearings. Our annual action plan is advertised twice a year. So that's a pretty set amount. Travel and training, we usually do use quite a bit of it. This year, since COVID, it's gone down a little bit, but the conferences are coming back up and Jeff just came back from a mortgage conference, so we should be getting that bill soon. So we do end up using it. Yeah, we're already at 1,100 on that. That's good. Subscription dues and membership. We have the new addition to that is we get the home tech estimating books. It's a set of books. Every 2 years, we get a new set. It's got all the updated information, prices for estimating project costs. And the online version is much simpler and easier to update and to sort. It'll be, in the long run, it'll be more affordable. Having the home tech estimating software. So for example, when we're doing our housing rehab projects, we have contractors submit bids and prices, and then Cam pulls his own from the software to make sure that it's in line. So let's see.
I had a question.
Sure.
Temporary services and professional services,
Mhm.
what are those lines? What are usually in those lines? They're zeroed out or something that you put?
Yeah, we don't, in the professional services line for HUD admin and housing, we haven't used it a lot. Typically is planning that really uses that, applying for grants. When I apply for grants for housing, we don't really need backup for that, so we could take those lines out. On the temp services line occasionally, in the, geez, can't remember when the last time we used them, but occasionally we have hired people using temp services.
And affordable housing, that's zeroed out also?
Yeah, that was, the ARPA, home ARPA funding that's already been spent. So that was not ever gonna be renewed. We have, money set aside in home and CDBG and other categories for housing and for rehab and renovations, but this was a special line for when we received that, all that.
I'm sorry, I think all those funds were spent in 2022. I think we spent, I don't know the exact number.
The lines that end in that F0015, I believe are all ARPA lines. We just keep them in there. Typically, I think it's just one budget cycle for like transparency's sake that this was funded in past years and it's zeroed out. Now you'll see that in other departments too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Dr. Burley, I wonder if you could just take a quick minute and cover the, we have I think as a group, a pretty good idea of what Steve Carson does as the program manager, but maybe not such a great idea of what the other folks in the department are kind of doing day to day,
In the
HUD stuff.
the housing, okay, I can tell you, absolutely. Well, the program assistant, she's shared, kind of, I don't want to say secretary, are we allowed to say that, but she's administrative assistant position. The second one is our housing specialist, and that is Jeff Wood, who works with first-time home buyers, works with the rehab program, with our energy efficiency programs, and he writes mortgages that goes along with the repayment aspect of those projects. He works with the Binghamton Housing Authority. But he's pretty much the financial specialist for the local projects. The housing coordinator is Cam DeLuzio, and his responsibility is managing all of the rehab, the single family homeowner, low, moderate income qualified rehab projects. And we also now have energy efficiency projects for low, moderate income homeowners. I kind of got some quick numbers on those. We have 14 projects right now. 10 of them are rehab. And of those, 5 of them are the energy efficiency projects, which include furnaces, appliances, water heaters. So he's managing all of those. We do have now, we're really picking up on our first time home buyer program because we increased the amount. I think we increased it to $10,000 for down payment, closing cost assistance. So we have 4 of them this year, which is great. So we've, since 2022 on up, we've had 12, 16, 26 rehab projects. So that's what he coordinates all of them, meets with the property owner, bids out the contracts, the projects, gets the project started, and then meets with them weekly and the property owner and goes through a list of work that's been done. He approves it for payment. And so, all right, so that was Cam's position. Now we're on to the housing community development specialist. That's actually a new position we added just in April. And this position works with our community housing development organizations, projects.
So what type of project?
The Choto projects, like First Ward Action Council, FEN, Opportunities for Broome. Those are low moderate income projects that most of them are restoring properties and putting it back into active use. Some of it is new construction. The FEN, Virgil is new construction. So she works with all of those projects, the contracts, the applications that go out to spend all the money. the applications as they come back in. And she works a lot with HUD requirements, and she also works a lot with the rehab projects. So she's, you know,
So she just focuses on that alone.
mostly, yeah.
And this is a random question,
Mhm.
but if an organization wanted to become a CHOTO, how do they do that? Just like a
Okay,
quick
yep.
review.
Call our office. We have a list of required documentation. They have to be nonprofit.
Mhm.
They have to have a structured organization, like with a board services, somebody that's overseeing it. That's about it. Those are the two biggest. And when we get they contact us, we tell them what information they need, they get it to us, and we can consider them a community housing development organization. And typically they will apply for grants and bring projects to us, and we'll bring properties to them. So it's kind of a joint, we work hand in hand like a partnership with them. So.
I know that Southern Door Land Trust,
Mhm.
I know they were trying, I'm not sure, I might be off, but I know that they were trying to get some help with that. I'm not sure if they've reached out to you regarding that.
They did initially regarding what funding would they'd be eligible for. And without being a CHOTO, it kind of limits our funding.
Yeah, but couldn't you guys help them with that though?
Yeah, I believe we have been.
We've told them that.
Yeah.
They're welcome to contact either our
Yeah.
office. So we've talked to them about that, or
Yeah.
Juliet or Steve Carson,
Yeah.
too. Steve can walk them through that process.
Yep, and they have. So I know that they've been communicating. I don't know
Okay.
where it stands right now, but yeah.
Well, I know I know that in the beginning of the year, they did ask us for funding. And so like, I was just wondering, like, if I
Yeah.
could like pass any information along to them to kind of help them through
Yeah.
the process.
If they want to come in and meet with us, I mean, it's easier face to face.
Okay,
Information to people, but just have them call if you don't mind.
yeah,
And I can reach out to them also.
yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Any more questions through page 108? No? All right, let's move to page 230 fees
Oh, that's easy.
and 231. So it's
What did you say, 230 what?
230 and 231.
Oh.
It's near the bottom, the PHCD fees. So we have a few changes this year, it looks like, Dr. Berlin.
Okay, hold on one second.
Let me put that.
I got it. I might need.
What page did you say that was? Oh. Gallery. There we go. Okay, so we have asked for an increase in the price for zoning compliance letters. We didn't charge anything for those until, I'd say, 2023. Then we started charging $10, and then it went up from there. The volume that we receive and the amount of time it takes to complete a zoning compliance letter has just led to all the increased requests. We had so far this year 151 requests for zoning compliance letters, and it's easily an hour, 2 hours, if not more, to do the history of the property and then to go physically and verify that.
So it's Greg going out mostly and
Yep.
and actually verifying
Yeah, only.
number of bedrooms and
Yep.
such things in them.
Yeah, and it's required, I don't know if it's required by banks, but banks are asking it for every mortgage. So it's, so we asked for an increase in that because of the amount of time and the volume was just going up. Let's see.
And then you have an increase to Series A site plan reviews for smaller projects, but not larger projects.
Right, we have more of the smaller projects, so we spend a larger proportion amount of time reviewing site plans for the smaller projects. 4,000 square feet and under. Let's see. And I think that's just that's the second increase that we've had since 2020. 17, I think, for a site plan review.
Yeah. Didn't even know that I knew there was a fence permit, but it's a
Yeah.
fence permit.
Yeah, that one we've increased, we've asked for an increase. We're recommending an increase from $10 to $20. Again, because of the volume and the time spent with it. And that makes it, whenever we recommend an increase, we've researched comparable sized cities to see what they're charging and what their rates at to make sure that we're within line. And for the most part, we're just now getting caught up to where people are. So we're absolutely not overcharging. With the sign permits, there was no increase in fee. There was a change in the square footage. Again, the majority of our, permit applications that come in are less than 150 square feet. So we've changed that first fee, $50 for every sign that's 75 square feet and under. And then $75 will be for signs that are 75 square feet to 300. And then the 300 square feet and up is 150. So the fees stayed the same. We just changed the size category. Because we have more of the smaller fees and they take up proportion of more time. On the illuminated sign surcharge, we're recommending an increase in that. And I think that was all for our fees. The sign permit fee, this is the first time we've changed it. So.
Any questions?
Wait. So you're making more signs, pushing more signs from large sign permit into the small sign permit category.
Yeah.
So it's costing people less money.
No, she's saying they're getting more small sign applications, which apparently didn't have a fee if they were under 75 square feet. Is that? I'm sorry, before if they were under 150 square feet. So now
Yeah.
you're lowering that
Yeah.
threshold to 75.
So we're creating kind of a small, medium and large. So, and the majority of them are small. So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Come on, Councilman Mike.
I'll make the motion to move pages 85, 100, 101, 106, 107, and 108, and to adopt the PHCD fees on pages 230 and 231.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Costi, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton, Council President Matavetsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 7-0.
Okay, pass those pages. Thank you very much, Dr. Berling. And now let's keep it rolling. All right. Next is going to be Economic Development, pages 83 and 84. Would you like to welcome down Economic Development Director Sarah Glose, please?
Hello.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, would you like to go over your summation?
Sure. Summation being what we sent you previous to this meeting.
Yes, yeah.
That's a great question. I didn't bring a copy of it. Not a lot of changes in our budget this year. I think the major thing that we highlighted was later on in promotions and marketing. Thank you, Megan. That's the largest increase that we're asking for, and I can go through that in more detail once we get to that actual area. But for the most part, it's a pretty flat budget from economic development.
Let's see, looks like personnel services changed because we've moved a COVID-funded position to a permanent position.
Correct.
And was that position exist before COVID or?
So the position itself existed as a civil service position, but it was not funded or in my office. This was the first year we've had that position in my office.
So it came from where?
What do you mean it came from where?
Oh, I thought you said it existed before COVID, but it was
I
not.
just
in
mean
your-
it's a civil service position that already existed. So we didn't, we created the position in my office, but the description of the position was not newly created. Apologies for the confusion.
Um, let's see. Facade, there used to be facade money. We don't have any facade money anymore, yes? Or is that, was that all run through BLDC or?
That's an ARPA allocation that I believe ran through BLDC. So we're going to encumber that for the rest of the year, correct? And into next year because we have not spent all of those funds yet. Most of them are awarded. I believe we have a very, very small amount left that's unallocated. And these are just waiting for project completion so that we can reimburse the recipients.
If, excuse me, if it's, was ARPA, is there a reason why it doesn't have the F0015? next to
Yes,
the
it
budget line?
was using lost revenue funds
Okay.
instead of actual ARPA funds.
Thank you. For all that money, everyone get reimbursed, or I wasn't familiar with that whole application to get the facade grants and then,
I think I'll take that question in two parts. One, we did not fund every application that we got, but two, we have not awarded we have awarded most of the funds. We have not distributed all of the funds.
thank you.
And I'm happy, I don't know if we want to just go line by line through or.
I mean, I think most of the lines are pretty clear. I mean, I would say, I mean, you have the grant consulting services subline of the professional services is, I mean, it's a high number for a department, significant number for a department in the city.
Yes, so I'm happy to go through that. So I have the list here. Since 2022, that grant consultancy has netted us $11.6 million in grants for the city of Binghamton. So even though it is a large lump sum, it's about $5,000 per month, and we consider those services well worth it.
Is there do you go to different consultants for different projects, or is there a specific grant writer you go to, or?
We have one consultant that we're under a term contract with, Strategic Development Specialist out of Syracuse.
Sarah, how long is the term of that agreement?
3 years. It began in 2022.
Slight increase in travel and training due to higher costs, it says, yes. I mean,
Yep,
what's your main travel and training sort of things in your office?
Yeah, so similarly to the planning department, a lot of stuff has moved online, which has been great. It has afforded us the opportunity to do some smaller regional travel and training that individually doesn't cost a ton, but just a hotel room overnight or gas to and from somewhere 2 hours away. So not hugely expensive, but it just enables us to take advantage of a couple more of those. This year, for example, I went to a brownfield conference in Utica, the New York Conference of Mayors Community Revitalization Conference in Oswego, and the New York State Affordable Housing, New York State Association for Affordable Housing Conference in Buffalo.
So do all the personnel in the office get the opportunity to do travel and training?
Yes, I will say that they don't generally take me up on it. They have, family obligations and other reasons why going out of town isn't necessarily feasible, but I do offer it to all of my staff.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah, I'm Curious to know, like, who has access to the grant consulting services? Is that like exclusive to your office, or could someone in the water department say that they need a grant written?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we manage the contract and oversee the billing, but it is used by departments across City Hall. And I do believe water is a good example of that.
Yes.
Specifically the technical applications that are required to the state. The grant consultant does a great job with those and has been really successful in getting us money to support that.
Thank you.
The related topic for city council, we were interested in trying to get money for making disabled accessible. And I know it was put into the last year's bond, you know, the bond that we voted on. So I know that this is a common point of discussion, but how council can help keep pushing that along, or how we get engaged to actually create a disabled accessible room. So yeah, I don't know, it's just one of the things that we kind of talked about, like maybe that would be a grant, so.
Yeah, I will say that there's so many grant opportunities out there that, you know, I come across new ones frequently. I know Dr. Burling does as well. So if you guys see grants that are out there, we're always happy to look at them. What's the other nice thing about our grant consultant is they are usually able to tell us whether a grant they think is going to be worth the amount of administration, the time and the overhead. And they also have a better visibility over competitiveness to know whether they think our proposal will be competitive. So we could make those decisions in advance, but whether it's an efficient use of their time or our time. But we're always happy to explore new opportunities, especially those that we didn't know existed.
Okay, so if council's interested in kind of pushing that project along, reach out to you, and I presume the deputy mayor.
I was heading to the mayor's office. They're able to communicate who in City Hall might be best positioned to manage that.
Thank you.
Happy to talk about promotions and marketing since I know that's the increase.
Well, I want to know first, are we on the outs with the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce? We're not giving them,
They actually give us a complimentary membership as a
there we
municipality.
go. All right. They should.
Yeah.
All right. Promotions and marketing.
Great. So this budget is really designed to help us support economic development that's happening in the city of Binghamton on kind of a small community level. So you'll see that there's some small things, poster printing, street banner printing. Those are things that we do usually in kind for organizations or events. For instance, all of the Restaurant Week posters that you see printed, the city of Binghamton prints those on behalf of Eat Bing. It's a great event for our community, especially with the students coming back. That's always a really popular time downtown. So happy to support them with a little bit of in-kind support there. Not super expensive for us, but really impactful for the organizations that we're able to support. The BMI ASCAP license, you guys probably talked about this with parks. That is a mandatory licensing fee that we have to pay by virtue of having events that may at any time use any licensed song. So that's anyone who's playing a cover of a song, that's anyone who's playing music at an event. They can and would sue us if we did not pay these funds.
True. My daughter, the dancer, and I have to pay, like, for competition, I have to pay a music licensing fee, so it's
Yes,
true.
yes. And there are 3 different organizations and you have to pay all of them. One of them found us last year and said, hey, you're not paying us. And then we had to add them into our list of folks to pay. So just one that we kind of have to eat. It goes up a little bit every year. So we usually budget a small increase in that. The LUMA sponsorship for the past few years has been paid out of our ARPA funding, as it will be again next year. Vines and Binghamton are legacy organizations that we've supported. And again, it's just small dollars, but it's really impactful to the small organizations and the events and the folks that they support. Historically, we have had our last event line at $5,000, just kind of a general event line. We'd like to line that out to support the Italian Fest and Tournament of Bands that's coming up. It's just one that every year we get to this time of year and we're looking at the budget and trying to make sure that we can cover all of those expenses. So we just thought it was high time that it had its own budget line so that we were more effectively tracking our spend on that. And then the final line is where the big increase is. I'm requesting $10,000 in event support. One thing that we've seen, and I noted this in my budget overview, is that downtowns as employers have left downtowns, not just the city of Binghamton, but all across the US. A lot of the research is pointing to the fact that downtowns need to be destinations and need to be experiential destinations. So we have a partnership with the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce and their Office of Placemaking, Jim Rayan, who some of you may know from the Harper's Dance Music Festival, as well as other events that he helps put on. So this is just money that helps us support events that he's putting on, that other community members are putting on. And that's one where, you know, it is a new allocation. So a couple of legacy events we'd like to support, such as Live on the Waterfront, that we work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce on, but definitely looking to support new events or some events that have been struggling based on, you know, just the way that downtowns have changed and the way that communities have changed, and helping them adapt to kind of the new reality of what it takes to put on events in the modern era.
So Sarah, outside of the legacy events, are you going to have like an application process for the new events trying to receive some of that money?
Sorry. That's something we can certainly look into. I think one of the hard things with applications is that when you open up an application, you may have seen what happened with the county funding. I believe they had 500,000 available and they got about $2 million in requests. So you end up with a lot of people who apply and they're kind of relying on these funds, and it's incumbent upon you to kind of turn a decision around really quickly so that they can make that decision-making process. Something we're open to, but I would just want to be cautious about capacity to be able to respond to those.
And what were you thinking on how you would allocate the money?
So a lot of this just comes from us being out in the community talking to folks. I know Councilmember Hotchkiss brought an event to me the other day. Certainly we would encourage you guys to bring us events that are happening. I'm also in receipt of all of the events that are coming through the clerk's office process. And so those are ones we've been able to reach out to some of those folks, not necessarily for monetary support, but just to ask if it's their first time, do they need help, you know, navigating with police or liaising with the city at all. So this would just give us an extra tool to be able to do that. And I know $10,000 seems like a lot of money, but when just chair rentals for an event is running you $1,500, those things add up really quickly. So we're not anticipating large amounts of money coming out to all of these events, just small amounts that help them, you know, make the numbers work and make them try something they may not try otherwise, and bring those experiences to Binghamton, and ideally be able to find a way to monetize them or otherwise make them sustainable in the long term.
I was in Owego for Porchfest on Sunday, and it was really happening and fun downtown.
Yeah, I
Or
heard
we
they had a huge number this year, a huge increase from last year.
Is there a reason why the Italian Fest is structured 10 at 500?
That's a good question. That's just how we have always done these. I'm not certain about why that structure is the case. I think it's really actually, that one doesn't really make sense. I apologize. If it's something we can change, certainly we can. Functionally, it's the same, but it is a little bit confusing the way it's written.
Okay, thank you.
I know from having, I'm just going to put Councilman Porter on the spot here, conversations about some parades for other groups beyond the Irish and the Italian. Would this be a spot where we could support additional cultures? I
Yeah,
don't know.
certainly we could look
I
at
can't
that.
remember the names of the groups. That's why I'm putting you on the spot.
Mostly what, to my understanding, is we had the Puerto Rican parade or Dominican parade, as well as the Caribbean, to some of the events that we had, like the Caribbean the event that we had, the Caribbean event. It would be more supportive that if we had something for them to actually come to the city to actually have some support. It would function, especially for some of the parades that they've been wanting to hold. And because I know that they would need it for certain navigation, traffic and everything else.
And I just wanted to, sorry to cut you off, Romney. I just wanted to add into that with his thoughts. I know in Brooklyn, like when they do like in New York City, when they do like a Puerto Rican parade or Dominican parade or different culture parades, it helps the city also, so it brings in revenue. And maybe if like the city was kind of behind like other things like that, it would bring in revenue for the city because people like when I go to the parades in New York City, I'm meeting people from Europe. Not saying people would come here, but people might want to come to Binghamton for that experience. Like, hey, I went to Binghamton's carnival or I went to this here, you know what I mean? So that might bring in more money to the city because hotels and different things like that. So that's just my suggestion.
Yeah, we can certainly, I think outside the budget process, talk about what that looks like and what makes sense. I know I sit in on a lot of those planning meetings, and so I can talk about kind of the events that maybe have a smaller lift and maybe easier for first time folks versus events that I might not recommend somebody new take on given the amount of work that they are. So that's a conversation I'm more than happy to have.
It would be grateful to have that resource or to at least seek them out. It seems that the opportunity, it doesn't seem to relegate towards that. Nobody seems to seek them out. It tends to stick with whatever they feel fixed.
I will say most of ours is intake. It's people bringing these things to us. I would certainly love for any of you to communicate with me if you're talking to residents who have a concern or feel like they're not being supported by the city. Those are things where as much as we try to get out and talk to folks, we don't always hear those things. So certainly would rely on all of you to bring those to us if there are issues that aren't being addressed.
Thank you.
Make the motion to move pages 83 and 84.
I'll second.
Motion to move pages 83 and 84 made by Councilman Costi, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I got one more question for Sarah.
Yeah.
Would you withdraw your motion for a moment, Mr. Costi?
Sure.
All right. Thank you. For the promotions and marketing, that's another ARPA line. There's $171,000 in it that is encumbered. Wait, it's encumbered or expended? So did we spend 171 this year in the promotions and marketing, or
Check
was
the
that
exact numbers, sorry.
it's on 84?
So we have encumbered or expended. I know some more has come out of that line since this 9/13/2024. This is all allocated. This is the allotment that our LUMA funding comes out of, as well as a number of other promotions and marketing allocations. And I apologize, I'm blanking right now, but we've supported Porchfest through this. We've supported cultural organizations that were recovering from COVID, theaters, event venues, the No Theater, Broadway in Binghamton, the Philharmonic, and those establishments that really their bread and butter was bringing large numbers of people together and being able to advertise that they were back open. So that has been allocated through 2025, I believe. But that's why you're seeing that it's not expended. Actually, there might be a little bit more. So yeah, the 123 is expended and the 171 is encumbered. And some of that has come out since 9/13/2024, and the balance of it will be spent in 2025. No. That's a promotions for the other one.
What's the balance, if you don't mind me asking?
I would have to double check. I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to move pages 83 and 84.
I'll second.
Motion to move pages 83 and 84 by Councilman Costi, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton, Council President Matavetsky. Aye. Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Yep.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 7-0.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Okay. Next, we'd like to call down Director of Purchasing, Bernice Griffiths, to discuss the purchasing budget. welcome.
Hello.
So we'd like to open pages, hold on, sorry, open pages 23 and 47 and 48. Please. Okay, welcome. Do you want to go through your summation or do you want to just start on page 23 or?
So 23 is the purchasing budget and there is no changes to those lines for 2025.
What is a Sampo?
I'm sorry.
What is Sampo?
Oh, it's the purchasing. It's New York State Purchasing Association.
There's no M in what you said. State Association of Purchasing Offer. Okay, never mind. Just municipal purchasing. Great. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Good guess. Anyway, okay. So no change. Necessary legal ads and such. All right. So 47, 48.
So 47, 48 for essential services, there are some increases. Overtime was increased by $2,000. This follows a decrease in the 2024 budget. We had changes to the amount of stores keepers that we have under the purchasing budget. So that the overtime was reduced in 2024, but it's not enough money. So we need to increase it to cover for overtime for the stores keeper. The telephone, fax, internet increased by 9,961, and this is additional bandwidth that was purchased by the IT department for faster services that they need for infrastructure for City Hall. Professional services increased by 25,000. These are the operational costs for Napa. When we did the budget in 2024 for professional services, we did not have a invoice yet from Napa. So the 2024 budget for the professional service was an estimate. What we have here in 2025 for the increase is based off of the invoicing that we've gotten in the end of 23 and 2024. So this reflects a more accurate number based on what we are getting billed. And finally, the postage, we're increasing that by 14,000 due to increasing postage rates.
I had a question. In overtime, you think oh, actually, my fault. Next year, you think it's gonna increase? Cause right now it's at 1,655 and next year it's for $3,000.
Yeah, he's gonna have most of the stores keepers overtime coming during winter when they have the water breaks and he has to come in on the
Understand.
weekend. So in November, December, once we get into the winter season, he'll have some more overtime.
Sorry, can you back up?
What does the storekeeper
Yeah.
keep?
I'm sorry,
What does the storekeeper keep?
that he's the water and sewer department. There's a storekeeper. So he does the equipment that the water department needs, hydrants, pipes, manholes, things like that.
I never knew that.
He's at the water department. So if a water main breaks, he's got to go to the water department. They can load it on the back of a truck so they can replace whatever they need to.
That in the
replace.
water budget.
I don't-
It's the stores keepers have been under the purchasing budget. They're not under
It's
the
always
water
been
budget.
under the purchasing budget. Yeah.
Anyway, but so they've just always been in the purchasing department and not the water department.
Correct. Well, there used to be stores keepers in public works also, so all of those stores keepers fell under purchasing.
And we're down to this one person that does this
Right.
one function. Okay,
What's that?
and then okay. How's the Napa contract working out? In your opinion, the comptroller's opinion, are we getting our money's worth out of it? Is it
The Napa
ballooning?
contract?
Is it, yes.
Yes, I think it's working out well.
Do we have any comparisons to before we had it as versus the amount of supplies we were keeping in stock, the amount of effort it was to guess what we need and stuff versus what they're able to supply or Do we have any actual metrics?
Don't think we've done anything to directly compare 23 to 24. Napa's. Yeah, so that, well, I thought you were asking for like a comparison between like the parts that were ordered before and now, or is that not what you're asking?
Well, so we used to do all this parts ordering and warehousing within the city, is my understanding.
Mhm.
So Napa is basically servicing us. They're being the warehouse and they're fetching everything and
Yeah, so Napa does all the inventory management for Central Garage.
So the way actually that Bernice has explained it to me is that in the past when we had, we've had the storekeepers, we would have to buy more inventory than we actually needed to make sure that was on hand.
right,
Now,
we're our own warehouse. And now
Right.
Napa is
now we
responsible
just
for
go
that.
through Napa. So I don't know if we have any numerical, I don't know if we have any data on it, but that's where their cost savings is coming in along with the
I guess I'm asking, is there cost saving?
There is,
Yeah.
because we used to have 2 stores keepers at the central garage, and now we don't have any. So there's 2 salaries that were saved, plus benefits.
But we're paying something for that to Napa. They're
Right, $145,000. So most of that savings is salaries.
Yeah, Councilmember Kavanaugh, if I remember the Napa contract, the city pays for the salaries of the Napa employees, their vehicles, their internet, their phone, and the city maintains the building, heating, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So yeah, I mean, that's where a lot of this budget's coming from.
Yeah, so with the Napa we pay, it's a 10% on the cost of parts plus all the operating costs and the overhead for Napa. So that's a monthly invoice that we pay to them.
And when we've had like snowstorms and things like that, they work as essential
so
services. They
Under the
show up like
contract, they're
our-
required to that, they have to have a stores keeper and when the DPW garage is open. So during the winter time, they run a night shift and a day shift along with us so that we always have a stores keepers in the room.
Thank you.
So, Councilman Dundon, where the meeting was quipping about who actually still pays for long distance separately.
Well, we still pay for long distance. We do have phone service still. Yeah.
And then our internet service provider is Time Warner, or I mean Spectrum, I'm assuming, and for the building, or do we have a different?
Some that goes, so this is, and I don't, because this comes out of IT too. They manage a lot of that. So I don't know IT 100%. But we pay for some bandwidth through this budget and then there was an increase. And that was through Level 3 Financing is the company that we use for it. So the IT increased bandwidth, which was an additional charge. So that's why this is going up.
Going to page 48, maintenance contracts, on the copiers and such. Last time, has that been out to bid recently? And then how much of it is actually underneath this central contract or
The copier contract?
yeah,
I believe that's under the Sourcewell purchasing cooperative. I can double check on that though. That's been in place it's an EBE office source we use for that.
EBE?
EBE.
Since we have, this seems to be the centralized services section, previous budget hearings, we've discussed some things that are scattered throughout the budget that maybe would make sense to pull in. And I don't know if we want to just throw that out there while we have you here. Like we talked about gloves, that many departments are purchasing, electricity. There was a number of items that kind of came up as maybe something that could be centralized. I'm just throwing that comment out there.
I know,
I'd
Councilman
ask
Kevin,
you
I
about
asked you
gloves,
about the
yes.
gloves on
Yeah.
Friday, so I do have that on my list. I have not been able to look into that, but I know that, those things are purchased by each department and, based on their own needs. There's, different things between departments that we don't have a central inventory for, and I mean, we could look at that going forward to see if any of those, should be combined into a centralized purchasing location, but that would.
Yeah, I think having it in each of the departments just allows it to be better managed by that department head. We can look into whether there's cost savings if we buy in bulk, but breaking it out by department allows for better management and I think just oversight in general.
I agree.
I mean, unless it doesn't. I mean, you end up with a Napa contract this way.
Yeah, but when it
partially.
comes to something like gloves, like even DPW, you can have construction gloves that are not puncture or cut resistant past a NC1, and then they might be doing something like cleaning up a site where they need cut and puncture resistant NC3, where purchasing might not know the difference, where Polluti or McManus have had a DPW would, like I would know just by looking at them what the difference is. So, I mean, you do have specialty items even when it comes to stuff like gloves that it'd be tough to just have it in an umbrella unless you're going to buy a storage facility to just hold 1,000 pairs of every possible glove you could use.
I know there's specialty needs, but also there's a lot of common needs, and to the point where, we're spending, I think we had up around $20,000 on nitrile gloves in the city alone.
Yeah, but every time you have the EMT services go there, they're going to change their nitrile gloves repeatedly. I mean, Councilman Porter's worked in that field. I mean, how fast do you go through a box of nitrile gloves when you're working it with an EMT?
Quite fast.
Sure.
Because quite fast is every time you at least, I know that we always had to have a surplus of boxes of gloves, and every month or so you had to buy at least 3 months worth of gloves just for the nitrile gloves alone. And that still is a cost that was always costly, but it was, again, it was still necessary, but it just was costly.
So I guess the bigger picture question is, how do we decide what in the city is part of something that's centralized, and how do we, like, what is the thought process that goes through what is centralized and what is not centralized? And is that something that is reflected on every however many years? I mean, it's not necessarily something you need to do constantly, but is it being thought through and done with intention, I guess is the.
Yeah, I mean, we look at different things each year and what is best managed by the departments and what is, what we buy in bulk for, like our storage room or whatever, or our mail room. Most of the purchasing of items is done by departments, even within, the storerooms. We buy, and then each department will get what they need from the mail room and charge by department. But that's, most of that stuff is all just managed by department. But we can look at. Yeah.
Conversation.
Any other questions, concerns?
Yeah, I would like to know why the Napa contract is increasing. Is that?
Why it's increasing?
Yeah.
Well, 2020, when we did the 2024 budget, as I said, that we did not have an operating bill from Napa at that time. So the 2024 budget was an estimate. So now that we've invoicing for that, the 2025 increase is reflecting of what we're paying as an actual cost.
And so this includes, since we were talking about the 10% over
Mhm.
price of the part that we expect with all the prices of everything going up, that the price of the actual base car parts that we're buying through them will probably go up a bit.
Well, yes, so the car parts are paid for by the department, but we pay the 10% markup through this. But yes, as the parts increase, the 10% we also would increase.
I mean, the one nice thing about the Napa contract was we were able to turn around on parts instead of, oh, it's not in our storeroom. We have to reach out to a vendor or do an RFP. You can reach out to Napa. And since they serve so many different municipalities, that they can get the part from another municipality and get it here with efficiency. So that was one of the few things about the contract I did like.
Motion to move pages 23, 47, and 48.
I'll second that.
Motion to move pages 27. Wait, did I say that right? 27. 23, sorry. Motion to move pages 23, 47, 48. Motion by Councilman Costi, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Any discussion on the motion? Would the clerk take the roll, please?
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton, Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 7-0.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
you.
Okay, next we will review the personnel and civil service budget lines. So I'm opening pages 31 and 32 and 228, and we welcome down Personnel Director Kent Drake Deese, please.
Hey,
Good
everybody.
evening. Welcome.
All right.
Would you like to go over your summary?
Yes, I would. All right. Yeah, we're looking pretty flat. I think no major increases, couple small decreases. We don't have a lot of moving parts in the personnel and civil service budget. It's primarily filled up with like other places in personnel costs. Is the highest cost, the most important discretionary funding, if you will. The biggest chunk is in the medical services, which is taken up primarily by pre-employment physicals, psychological exams for police officers when they're being hired, the randomized testing for CDL drivers and fire and police are still randomized tested or randomly tested. And if you drive a city vehicle and you get an accident, you're going to get tested when that happens. And so that's the bulk of what is encompassed in the medical services budget. And so in terms of budgeting that, it's difficult because that's a moving target. Depends on how many people we hire, how many people behave in ways that's going to require them to get tested, how many accidents we have, that kind of thing. But so far so good with that the budgeted amount is holding pretty steady. So yeah, that's primarily that one. It's going to hold right there. We've had a little bit of swing in personal services because we had 7 months of not being fully staffed. So the actual expenditure went down, but we're just going to feed that back in because we did hire somebody moving forward who starts next week.
So the department assistant you've got somebody.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes. That's right. Less bell ringing in the office. So we're all happy about that. Ding dong. So they'll start. So like I say, there's not a lot of change there. We're just putting her back in the budget. The temporary services again remain stable. Again, that covers primarily emergency layoffs and temporary clerks. So like when somebody leaves or we need somebody to do something temporarily, they can get hired in personnel as a clerk, just a general clerk. They can do pretty much any function that needs to be done within the city temporarily. And that's what that budget covers. So it's kind of handy in that way, and we did use it. Let's see. Yeah, the overtime is again primarily used for civil service. You'll see that was a little bit higher, but that's stabilizing. In 23, we're catching up. Civil service was catching up with all those exams that were canceled during the pandemic. So there was a lot of catching up to do. That's starting to level out. So you'll see that reflected there. Travel and training, very limited, but again, you'll see that we didn't spend any this year because we only had the Jamie and I in the office. Jamie had other family plans at the time of the one conference that we do go to. So I couldn't go either, which is okay. But that's why we didn't do it this year. And for next year, we certainly expect to go back to that, especially with a new person. We want to make sure that they get an opportunity to train. So that is, yeah, that's primarily what the budget encompasses.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, how you doing?
Well, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was just wondering, how can we encourage more professional development training within City Hall?
Well,
because I know we began talking about this in the beginning of the year as we met.
Yep. So we did do some. So we did some customer service training. We did some leadership supervision training. And that was all pretty good. Unfortunately we had a snag at the program in that E&I, our service provider, their trainer left right in the middle of the training actually. And so we're still following up with them. So they just hired a new person, but we do intend to get back to that. You know, E&I, which is part of our EAP program, right? So that's part of that contract. So they have training kind of built, it's baked into that contract, certain hours of training. And I don't think it's been used particularly in the past. And so we've tapped into that, and it's not free, but it's no additional cost. You know what I mean? So tapping into that, they did a pretty good training. I think a couple of the customer service trainings were good. So using that as a resource, we can do it. And now that I have a couple of years under my belt and understand this, and I'm getting the assistant in the office, I myself can do a lot of training. I feel good about that. And then potentially using other resources that we already have, other staff people that we have, who I think are capable of delivering solid training. So we're looking at all kinds of different avenues to make that happen.
Okay. Is there a way that we can create a certain amount of or a certain budget in order to create more more resources into the professional development and training or
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that if we had, I wish we had like just kind of a centralized training budget. That, you know, because it's pretty standard out there, you know, the departments have their training budget and that covers their basic needs. But if other training opportunities either become available or are mandated, required for one reason or another, that, you know, basically you could go to personnel or finance and ask essentially for a training scholarship, you know, for additional training that might be required. I think that would be fabulous if there was just some other resource that you could dip into. But I think doing that in a more centralized way would be more beneficial than having just adding, you know, some money in some other corners of the operation. So if that opportunity is out there, I think that would be fabulous.
I got a call. Oh, I'm sorry, Lamy, if you're not done.
My thing is, how would you centralize it? What way with what?
Just basically a training and development budget. One pool of money. You know, again, there's different ways of doing this. And so I'm giving you one off the top of my head, but yeah, just a separate budget line for training and development. And as I said, if there's a need in some department, they want to go to some conference or they find some deficiency that they have and they need particularly training for that, then we'd have a budget to supply them that. And particularly when it comes to these deficiencies, you never know when you're going to identify a deficiency. It could crop up when you least expect it. And suppose you've already spent your training budget, and development budget for that year. And this person needs training. And there's an excellent training program out there. How do you find the money to do that? As it is, it's not like it doesn't exist, but you have to go to Chuck and ask Chuck to see if he can, find some money under the couch somewhere.
What I've noticed so far from what I've seen within the budget process and every travel and training, I've noticed that each one or each department at least has 3,000 in each one. Would that be a way to centralize all those budgets together to create that whole centralized, or to match whatever? Let's say 150,000 would be with the goal that you would want.
Yeah, I mean, you could consolidate it. I mean, that would just be another way to go. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that would be better or worse. The thing about consolidating all of it like that would be like anytime somebody wanted to go to a conference or training, then they're asking, say me, if it's me for it, then they've got to go through the process of getting me to understand why that's important, for them, which, and I'm sharp, I'm pretty good. I'm swift on the uptake, which they can do. But it does take away some of their own discretion in terms of they know what, professional responsibilities and training and education that their staff needs. So like I say, to some degree, I think that that's fine. But there's more than one right way of doing this.
Ken, just curious, in the medical services, do you cover the DOT medical for all the CDLs, or does that come out of the DPW budget?
That comes out of this budget. Yeah.
Is there anything in here that's really focused at recruitment and retainment of city employees, like not just trainings and development, but like helping people with career paths, like that side of building up our employees, employee knowledge?
Yeah, there is. And again, I think it's something that we've had, but I don't know that's been utilized appropriately. Because I have seen what a resource the AP can be. Like I say, we already have that contract. So, and when we think of EAP, I think traditionally it's been sold, and that's the way that I saw it when I first got here, that it was sold as, if you need marriage counseling or family counseling or drug and alcohol issues you're facing, that the EAP provides services to support you with that. And that's great. And folks are using it. I just had the utilization report from EAP. Again, I don't know what people are, the details of why people go there, but I get an aggregate report of usage and it is being used. And that's fabulous. That's a good thing. But what we have not traditionally pushed is like I said, that ENI EAP has all those trainings that we have access to, as well as the e-learning component of it. And we use it exclusively so far. We've used it exclusively for the annual state compliance training, right? That's mandatory. That's where you go to do all that stuff. But if you look and you drill into that, there's all kinds of different trainings, on that site. So trying to get that organized, and that's one of the things that I'm working on, getting that organized in a way that, that makes it more accessible because that's the thing. On that site, it's not really organized that well, even for the mandatory training, which I think you guys have done or you're about to do. We're going to tell you that you got to do these trainings, but it's not that easy to find. You got to go through this catalog of online e-courses, right? And I just recently talked to them about getting that better organized so people can find what they're looking for. But if you have the proper instructions, if I get it organized, then I would have to issue those instructions myself to help people drill into what they're looking for. So I think that the e-courses out there are good resources, and we've already paid for them, you know. So see what those can do for us, as well as the E&I courses that they have. Like I say, some of the training is baked in, but they also do customized courses. They will cost a little bit, but if they're customized and they're pretty good. So I think we have a pretty good grip on that, and I plan on doing more training myself also.
I have a question. I know that you said you just hired for the position. What took so long?
Excuse me?
What took so long, like, for you to find?
Oh, another charm of civil service is that that when the person left the position and she just moved on to another civil service position in town, that the exam had just been given, right? So the civil service exam had just been given. So we were in a position where if we hired somebody for this position, so we could have done this search and hired the 10-time National Personnel Assistant of the Year, right, into this position. But if they hadn't taken the civil service exam, when the results of that exam came out, they'd be out of a job. Right? So it doesn't matter how good they are, they'd be out of a job. So I didn't want to do that to somebody. So we just kind of sucked it up and waited.
Any other questions on pages 31 and 32? We open up page 228. So. Okay, Kent, so there's an exam fee for police OC that is blanked out in the adopted and proposed. And I see police and fire OC above it. Do we know? It doesn't look like there's a change, but it looks like.
Yeah, so the police, you know, those fees have been the fees that they are for quite some time, and fees are all over the place.
I don't know, there's a yellow.
Yeah.
There's a yellow change.
So for police, it's been $25 historically, and it's going to be dropped to $0 and try to get more applications to remove that barrier from receiving applications, because we need to increase the pool for police.
Are we comfortable? Just be blunt. Are we going to blow back for the firemen for not giving our other first responder department the same chance at a free shot at the exam?
Well, maybe because it's promotional. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think police is unique because we have such difficulty or have historically filling those positions, and it's part of our broader push to remove barriers and increase recruitment and applications. And it's less about, my understanding of it is it's less about the $25 and more about the fact that you have to pay by check. And these are typically younger candidates who, like, that could be a legitimate barrier for them. So it's more about that.
So there's no way to put in a system to pay by credit card?
I think we just always do check. Either way, we'd be in favor of waiving it. It's a barrier either way, whether it's a 25 or the check.
I almost feel like we should do it for all of the fees. I can't imagine that we're collecting that many in application fees across all five, what is this, 5 or 6 of these lines? Is that?
Do we have a sense of the revenue from all these fees?
Because
Well,
if it's more.
revenue, a percentage of it goes to the state.
Okay.
Right. So I think it's yeah, I think for $25, I think $17 of it, I think it is, goes to the state, and for that example. And then the rest of it goes to administering, the thing. And when you do, that's the thing, when you do these exams, there's a lot of administration, a lot of paper still, unfortunately. And a lot of preparation that goes into them. So it doesn't, it's definitely not a cash cow in terms of the fees. Yeah.
There is a revenue line associated with civil service fees in the general fund budget. I think it's around $3,000 if I'm correct. I don't know the exact number. I've been told it's $3,000.
Good guess.
I mean, to myself personally, I'd like to see this waived just to see a year from now if it does bring in more recruitment or not. I mean, that's the only way we're really gonna know if we waive the fee and then we see. And then if that does work, we can always come back and try something, the same thing with the firefighters or wherever else if need be. But I'm like, obviously, we've been short a lot of police officers for a long time. We might as well try something new.
I caution you, if you're gonna waive these fees, that $3,000 is not coming in the budget.
But we could get so many more applications, like, which, I don't know. But maybe.
So
Well,
you
I
have the
have-
waiver, you have the police waiver incorporated now. And still have a $3,000 revenue line.
But that includes everybody taking a civil service exam
Right.
that is applying for a job for the city.
Right, but it's the same this year as it was last year. So so we're assuming losing all those police testing fees won't impact the overall fees? I mean, we're arguing about a difference of several $100s probably is all, but
I thought it was suggested that we're removing all the fees. You're talking about just the police fee?
no, I'm saying if we just did what is on here,
If you're just doing the police fees, then it would probably be minimal.
but that's what's being proposed.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I heard a comment about removing all of them.
Yeah,
so
if we
I
did
just
all of
wanted to
them, what the
caution you,
difference
that's
would be.
all.
Right. But I'm saying we're removing the police fees. But you didn't trend down the expected revenue.
Say that again.
So there's a
No.
$3,000 revenue line for 2024 and 2025.
The adopted for 2024 was also nothing.
No, it was $3,000.
No,
Yeah,
for
it's
the
the same.
exam fee, police OC line, it was.
No.
zero last
Personnel
year.
civil service. No, I think they just added this
Right.
line. No, they just added it. And in fact, but they didn't take it away from the line above it. We have to amend this anyway, I think.
But that's what I'm saying. If you remove that revenue, it should be reflected.
Yes, that's correct. It's just.
But I'm saying.
Yes.
Are any other metrics beyond number of applicants tracked? So I know we have problems filling positions in the police department, but it's a pretty diverse department. There's lots of positive things that I can say about that. We are better at filling the fire department, but it's a less diverse department. Are we tracking any of that? And can we track that along with removing fees if we're getting not the typical people that we've been getting apply or other metrics beyond just whether or not people applied?
Well, what we know is that the police problem is not a Binghamton problem. It's an everywhere problem. So that kind of tracks everywhere. And likewise for fire, for example, that's also similar to other places. Fire just isn't having the same level of difficulty that the police are. So there's bigger issues, afoot here. And we have still been unsuccessful, I think, at attracting quality candidates. So for example, there was 96, I think it was 96 people paid to take the exam, and only 60 something actually showed. Right. And many of them just were not really qualified, couldn't pass the physical, that kind of thing. So no, this is for police.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the fire still has just, they have a very long list. They have a very robust list, whereas police do not.
Okay. I would just like to correct the fee schedule and motion to remove the words police and from exam fee, police and fire OC. So the fire line is still $25 and the police line is now no dollars.
Second.
Where?
So on page 228.
On 228,
Yeah.
under fire and it's police and fire. And then you see
The
where.
reason that the description is still police and fire is to show that police was moved from there to its own separate line. If police was removed, then it would make it look like police were free, but they weren't. Police and fire were 25 in 2024.
Yes, but you haven't changed there's no change in this line in the budget.
Then the police and fire.
So if this was adopted and printed right now, this line would read exam fee, police and fire OC. Then the next line would read exam fee, police OC.
Yes. See what you're saying. I wanted to keep the history of the fact that police were 25 last year and now they're not.
I get that. I
Right.
appreciate it.
I see
as a
what you're
matter of fact.
saying though, I see, I know what to change it.
Could you put it in parentheses? The police
Yeah.
2024 in parentheses
Right,
and
yeah.
fire
Figure out
OC.
some way to make it more clear. Yeah.
Yes, that could work. Anyway. For the purposes of the 2025 budget, I would like to remove the words police and from the line where the police and fire OC exam sits.
Was that a motion?
Yeah. Emotion, but that was.
Second.
Did somebody
I
second?
second.
Nate seconded. All right. Motion by me, second by Councilman Hotchkiss. Any discussion on the motion? Does this make sense to everyone now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on this? Okay. Sorry, call the roll.
Call the roll, please, clerk.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton, Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to move pages 31 and 32 and the civil service fees on page 228 as amended.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Councilman Costi to approve pages, to move pages 31 and 32 and 220 and the civil service items on page 228, seconded by, as amended. Thank you. Seconded by, I didn't say it, was, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Any discussion on the motion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky. Aye. Councilmember Dundon.
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 7-0.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kent.
Thank you, Ken.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
I'll give that one to Councilman Dundon and seconded by Councilman Porter.